Welcome to the Inventor's Edge podcast, where insight meets innovation. Whether you're sketching your first idea or refining a finished product, you're in the right place. Our mission is to equip you with the tools, expertise, and clarity you need to succeed as an inventor, while helping you conquer fears and limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. I'm your host, Scott Putnam, founder and CEO of Inventor's Edge. Before becoming a seasoned product development coach, I was a wide-eyed inventor with a head full of ideas but no clear path forward. I know firsthand what it's like to feel stuck, uncertain, and overwhelmed. Fast forward to today, I'm a successful entrepreneur with multiple licensing deals and products on the market. I'm committed to helping inventors like you overcome obstacles, conquer fears, and transform your ideas into tangible success through proven, actionable, step-by-step strategies that deliver real results. Join us as we bring in industry pros, share expert advice, and dive deep into the world of innovation. Ready to turn your ideas into reality? Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the Inventor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Scott Putnam. Are you an inventor or an entrepreneur and you're curious about how to get people's attention and engage audiences? If so, you are in the right place. In this episode of Inventor's Edge podcast, we're excited to have the podcast legend himself, Dan Melnick, on with us. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So Dan is CEO and co-founder of Zing. Dan's a dynamic entrepreneur with a passion for software development and direct-to-consumer performance marketing. With a strong focus on innovation, Dan has successfully led the creation of the fantastic Think Big with Dan and Kazim podcast, where he shares some great insights on entrepreneurship, technology, and business growth. So we're lucky to have him. His expertise in building engaging platforms and driving performance marketing strategies has positioned Zing as a leader in the industry. When he's not busy developing solutions for clients, Dan enjoys connecting with fellow innovators and exploring new trends in the tech space, which led him to our door here. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Can you tell us, we'll just start with a little about where you're from and maybe a little more about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, went to college in Wisconsin, and I've always been very entrepreneurial. My first business was an eBay store. It was an idea I had when I was 17, and I was just a hobby collector of autographs and memorabilia. So I used to go to downtown Chicago. I would get some cards signed or photos signed, and my friend was like, "Hey, why do you need 5 signed cards of the same player?" And I was like, "You're probably right." I mean, he's like, "Yeah, why don't you just keep one and sell 4?" Right. So that's what I started doing. And then, yeah, when I went to college in Milwaukee, I really took that company to the next level because in college, you have so much free time. So I would go to the hotels and games and, all the different music venues, political events, everything. And then after I graduated from college in 2018, I moved back to the Chicago area. I was working in supply chain operations, which is what I studied. But I had this vision. I said, listen, that the corporate world I knew was always not for me. So I said, why don't I, try and build something bigger, build like a mobile app, some sort of fitness marketplace. Because eBay store, I enjoyed it, but I was doing it for a long time and I just didn't want to keep doing it. Nor did I really think it was scalable because it's like getting autographs yourself and all that. So yeah, over time I said, listen, why don't I build this mobile app? So I met Kasim. He was my developer. I had lots of different devs, but he was the one that was like my last one. He did a really good job. I worked on this platform for about 2 years, and I sold that eBay store. I sold all my inventory. I moved to Dallas, Texas, and after that was done, I was like, "Hey, Kasim, I don't want to keep pursuing this app. I spent all this money on it. I never made any money on it." And Kasim was like, "Hey, why don't we try and bid on some projects?" We started small, like on Upwork. We got one project, and this CTO is actually based here in Austin. And that company had raised about $15 million. So that gave me a validation that we were actually good because they just loved our work. And they started several tech companies before. Yeah, that's kind of how we got started was I used to be in consulting. I moved to Austin about 7-8 months ago now. But yeah, I mean, I've been in Texas for 4 years and pivoted from consulting to doing Zing full time. We've been growing ever since.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's always amazing, like the entrepreneur's journey, right? There's always so many stories and things to share. I guess what really inspired you to pursue this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just opportunity. I saw that we were growing. I was in consulting full time, and I was traveling a lot. I was at one point in a role where I was traveling every week. I was just coming home for the weekends, and it was very challenging. And especially for me, I just doing that. Traveling is one thing. When you're traveling on, doing business for someone else, it's not as enjoyable. Like at least not for me. So, but yeah, over time, I worked for a company and then I worked for a different consulting company that was sold and acquired. So at that point, I had lost my job. I was furloughed essentially. And yeah, so I said, listen, like, I'm not working now. Like I lost my job. If I'm going to go full time with this company with Zing, now is the time. So that kind of opened a door for me to say, okay, like if I'm going to go full time, let's do it. And I did it. And definitely not easy, but it's been great so far. We've grown a good amount, and I just love it. This is like, I mean, every day, like I'm working pretty much every day, and I just really love what I'm doing.
Sweet. That's the old saying. If you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
So
That's so cool. So I know with, with a lot of marketing and especially this day and age where there's so many dollars spent vying for people's attention. It's hard to get people's attention. There's so much noise out there, right? It's like stuff's coming at people all the time and fast. So what has been your approach to, innovation, and what strategies have you found that are really effective to engage audiences across different platforms?
yeah, I mean, so in terms of getting new clients, we use LinkedIn out like often as a great channel. In terms of like marketing for clients, we're mostly using Meta. I mean, Meta is still number one. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of what people say, TikTok is a great platform. Don't get me wrong, but like Facebook, Instagram. I mean, Facebook holds the most. I think it's like 70% of people are using Facebook. I'm not sure, but like in terms of just like active social media, I think it's like a really high percentage. So Facebook is
Hmm.
still number one. Instagram is still number two. So Meta is still like a great platform, and
Hmm.
there's still lots of great data there, right? Because Facebook and Instagram knows more about you than you think, which is a good and bad thing, but they
Yeah.
know what you're interested in. They know kind of based on certain groups that you're in. If you're interested in business and entrepreneurship, or you might be interested in looking for different coffee brands. I don't know, but it's just different things based on your interest, and they can show you those ads and definitely targeting people who are actually going to go and click the checkout button and can buy, right? Because there's different types of ads. There's ads that you can run just for engagement, which is okay if that's your goal. But if you're really focusing on sales, you can target consumers that actually have a history of not just clicking on links, but actually clicking on links and purchasing and checking out.
Yeah, that's the big deal. Like, what's that conversion rate, and how are you able to do that? I know with my product, with Swat and Scoop, we're doing a lot on social media and also with Inventor's Edge to just get people's attention, but not and provide great information. But also at the end of the day, it is a business. You want them to click on something and purchase something. And that's not always easy to do. And I know there's different schools of thought about, I want these entities to know more about me so they can target ads that for things that only interest me. Other people are like, no, that's the devil's work, get away. I was just curious, in your work at Zing as CEO and co-founder in software development and direct to consumer marketing, there's always challenges that come up. Can you discuss maybe a specific challenge you faced and some of the strategies and solutions you might have enacted to overcome that?
For sure. I mean, there's always cultural differences because most of our team is not in the US, right? So I have one co-founder who's in the Jersey, New York area. So he's, working more directly with our clients and account management. And so having him being part of our team is a huge help because having one person here in the States, and that was before he joined us, was just me very, very challenging because I'm taking calls for potential clients, then trying to manage projects. It just becomes very chaotic, right? But it helps to have somebody here in the States that understands our work culture, how we communicate, how we work with our clients, because there's definitely different cultures and different ways that people communicate, whether For example, here in the States, if somebody reaches out to you and if you don't know the answer, like you'll say, hey, listen, like I saw your message, I'm looking into it and I'll get back to you. But overseas, they might not respond for many days until they figure out the answer, which is, as an American, you're very, as like Americans oftentimes are very antsy and anxious. Like, did this person, is he working on it? Like, we have no idea what's going on. So I think it's really focusing on like, how do you communicate? How do you get in front of people? And how do you really like, show people that they're being heard when they ask, a certain question? But yeah, I mean, communication is one of our core strengths. It wasn't in the past, but today it definitely is. And Effie, my co-founder, is a big reason why.
Yeah, there's such a huge challenge working with, people from just different cultures, different backgrounds, because the norms are so different, like you said. In a culture, let's say in Asia or something, or wherever, really, they don't get back to you for 2 or 3 or 4 days. In their culture, it's like, okay, great, they're still working on it. Here, it's like they forgot about me. What happened? What? I need some answers, even if it's nothing, even if it's just to let me know you're still working on it, right? Well, I always appreciate that too, but it's definitely not always, the norm for other cultures. I deal with that a lot. I use Fiverr a lot. And it's like, if somebody's helping me with a website or something and it's been 3 days, it's like, what? They forgot about, like, what is going on? Meanwhile, they're probably really working hard on it.
Yeah.
And so I think it helps to manage, expectations with people and ourselves, right? Just saying, okay, this is just different than what I'm used to, how I'm used to working or how I like to work. But then also either training your people or the people you're dealing with. So, as we adapt, also having them adapt a little bit. Like, hey, if it's been 2 days, just drop me a line. Let me know you're still alive. You're still working on this.
Exactly.
Man, so have you had any learning moments through, like, as a topic? In my world, it's inventors, and we're, putting products together and developing products and engineering and marketing materials and all that. But it's also, a lot of that involves working with other people. Any learning moments about kind of dealing, just maybe working with other people, especially with a different culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, Scott, it's really just setting expectations clear, right? So if we're going to give updates twice a week, make that clear. If we're going to have meetings every day or 3 times a week, set the expectations clear. Here's like our meeting time. Here's what we're going to go over. Make sure that action items are super clear, because I think to your point, that goes with any culture, any business. If you don't have those things straightened out, it makes things much more challenging. So how do you make sure that we're all on the same page? And yeah, I mean, that's been a big thing where it's like, having alignment, documenting everything. So when it comes to all of our processes, I've made sure our team has documented everything, because like, as much as they're great, people don't work with companies forever, right? So our people are out of the office sometimes. So how do we make sure that if somebody leaves, if somebody's out, that we can go and pick up the slack? Everything is documented. So I've pushed our team to really document things and make sure that everything is super clear in case that does happen.
Yeah. Yeah, the expectations, documenting things. And I think over the years of working with other people, other, experts in their industry or suppliers for things, it does really help if they know what your expectations are, because they're not mind readers. We're used to just going about our day and doing our thing, and we expect people to understand what our expectations are, which maybe in the US, where, we're used to working with other people in the US, it might make sense and they would just know that sort of intuitively. But all of a sudden you're working with somebody in Madagascar or, Tanzania or wherever. It's like, okay, here's specifically what I need you to do. And I love the idea too, having regular meetings, maybe a once a week at a specific time, just to meet, come together, talk through everything, make sure you're on the same page. That's so huge. And that's something that for anybody, any entrepreneur, I mean, this is just good general business practice for everybody, right? I'm curious, I wanted to chat a little bit about your podcast. I know you guys have done great job with it. It was fun for me to be on it a couple times, and I'm excited to come back down the road, as my business continues to develop. I'm curious how how's your experience with the podcast kind of affected or influenced your work in the direct to consumer performance marketing world?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great way for us to grow and to make connection. I think, especially for a new business, it's super hard to get out there and get your name out there. It's like people are very busy and they get pitched so many times, per day, per week. So it's like, how do you actually go and make genuine connections and genuine relationships? And we realized early on that we can give folks value by having the show, right? Getting somebody on the show, promoting their business. And listen, if we can work together, of course, we're business people. Let's, find a way. If not, either way, I'm like, listen, like it's just a great way to make connections, meet people. People make introductions. You can make an introduction. I mean, there are people that have come to me and say, hey, listen, like somebody saw me on your show. Now this person is working for me because they reached out and saw the episode. Like, I love that. I mean, if we can make those connections, that's what it's all about. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. We've interviewed lots of, people who are on Shark Tank or people that have accomplished great things, or even people who are super early on in their journey. I think it's like, always interesting to hear people in different places because there are many people who have this idea of like getting started and they don't know. So even somebody who actually got started and is doing something is an accomplishment because most people have an idea and they never actually go and do it or go and pursue it. So if they can listen to somebody who just got started, it can resonate more with somebody who's just thinking about an idea, right? But of course, always people who have accomplished a lot, sold different companies, much further along in their journey. So we try to have people of different, backgrounds and different experiences and even in different countries because it makes it super interesting, not just for our audience, but also for me interviewing those folks.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you find a lot of people across the board, let's say they're the beginning stages of things, a lot of them are dealing with the same challenges, right? A lot of it's fears, or they don't feel like they have enough information, or they're not ready to actually make the leap, but maybe they are ready. I mean, do you find some common ground sort of across cultures with regard to some of the inner game here?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are always risk averse and afraid to take the leap and they don't know when to do it. And I always say there's never a perfect time. It's like you're going to do it and it's going to be too soon. Maybe it might be too late. I mean, there's no, just do it. If you want to do it, there's never a bad time. And I think it's like, yeah, people are always concerned. And yeah, I mean, I get it. For some people, it is more challenging because you have, families and kids, and it's hard to kind of stop that consistent income and maybe not making money for a few years, right? So it
Mhm.
definitely is like a challenge. There's understanding like what that's going to look like, budgeting, being as cost effective as possible, saving your money because yeah, I mean, it is true most of the time in entrepreneurship, you're not going to make much for your first few years doing it, if anything at all. So it's really just seeing that progress, putting in that time, and really budgeting for the future.
Yeah, I mean, great advice across the board. I worked with a lot of inventors over the years, and I get that question like, should I sell everything I own and sell my house and just go all in on this product? Like, no, you shouldn't. That would be a bad idea.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to their excitement about the product and their commitment to it, and just really being willing to give it 100%, right? Which is admirable. The smart entrepreneurs and the ones that survive take a step back, they take a breath, say, all right, how can I do this? Stay married or stay with my significant other, and still have a roof over my head and food on the table and all of those things. And I think there's definitely ways to do that without losing that passion, right? That excitement that really drives people. And I think, yeah, you're spot on with the advice too, really about looking at the numbers, looking at the budgeting, figuring, how long can I coast, right? How far can you coast on fumes? Knowing that there's another gas station down the road that maybe is bigger and better, but you got to get to that point, right? I think for some people, it's just they're not, either they don't have the right support system or they're just not willing to do that. or it just feels too risky, too scary. And I like the idea, leap and the net will appear, but also look down. Just take a peek over the edge before you leap. I don't think that hurts either.
100%.
So with that in mind, I guess what advice would you give our listeners that might be aspiring to achieve some success as a new person in the field of entrepreneurship, innovation? Are there any specific habits or principles that, you found have been super helpful for you?
Definitely save your money. I think one mistake I made was not saving enough money. I think just, save money, be cost conscious, try and live as minimally as possible. Because like I said, early on, you're probably not going to make much. There's obviously exceptions to the rule, but it's kind of like planning for the worst and, hoping for the best. But I think that's one thing for sure is, you might not take lucrative vacations if you did in the past or things like that, right? It's like, how can you save money? Maybe you might cook at home more as opposed to eating out, right? And that's okay. So I think it's just understanding that specifically. But yeah, just go for it. If you have a good idea, just to your point, Scott, don't go full time too early. Have some traction, have some sales, make sure you have some of that first before you go full time. But once you have some traction, and you see that there's some validation there that you can validate this idea, then yeah, it's okay to go full time, go for it. There's nothing wrong with it, but make sure that you understand it's always going to be ups and downs, challenges beyond your control. If you have physical products, you're going to have delays. Look at, what happened obviously during COVID. Like it was very hard to get products. So just understand that even not during COVID, it can always just be challenges, quality issues, different things out of your control. So just really plan for that and don't give up. Keep being persistent and keep going.
Awesome. Yeah. Wise words. I hear that so often. For anybody that's studied successful people over the years, that's always a common theme is like not giving up, staying with it, but also learning along the way, right? Continuing to sharpen your blade and stay on the forefront of whatever industry you're in and continue learning. But some people get into that paralysis by analysis, sort of like this learning loop where they feel like they're just kind of stuck there and they're perpetually gathering information because it's familiar, it's safe. At some point, you got to bust out of the loop, right? We can wrap up here too. Any final thoughts for our Inventor's Edge listeners? Anything else come to mind?
Well, if you ever need, or if they ever need software development or performance marketing support, feel free to reach out to me. Our website is myzing.io. I'm on all social medias, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, Facebook. Reach out to me and I can give my personal number here as well, 817-874-2208. Shoot me a text and we can help.
That's awesome. That sounds great. Yeah. Hopefully people take advantage of that. And, even just to reach out and ask you a few questions about what you do and how you might be able to help them. That would be great. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story, insights, contributions to the episode. It's such a fantastic topic for, inventors and innovators. And hopefully our listeners got some great, quick takeaways from this they can use as they're approaching their own inventing journey and taking the leap, being willing to put yourself out there. Hopefully people, please share your thoughts, comments, or questions about the episode. Be sure to connect with us on social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Dan, I appreciate you being here and I'm excited to have you back on a future episode.
That was great. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks again, Dan, for joining us. It was an honor to have you on. Please check out inventors-edge.com for more resources to help you thrive. Thanks for tuning in to Inventor's Edge, where every idea has the power to change the world. Remember, invent with purpose, innovate with passion, and bring your ideas to life. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Inventor's Edge podcast. I'm your host, Scott Putnam, and if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a review, and please share it with fellow inventors. Your next breakthrough could be just around the corner. For more tools, tips, and resources, visit us at inventors-edge.com. Until next time, invent with purpose, innovate with passion, and bring your ideas to life.